Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time I have full review of the Huawei Band 9. Let's get started. This is the new generation of Huawei's wristband, which is obviously going to retain a lot from the previous generation. There are few changes really from the Huawei Band 8 to this Huawei Band 9, but we will find in short more accurate monitoring. It can also detect arrhythmias and some other things that are going to specialize a little bit more. I insist that the Huawei Band 8 is still going to have very good capabilities, but if you want the latest, let me tell you everything you can have with this model, which its launch price has been 999 pesos in Mexico. That's approximately $59, although remember that the prices here are not the same as over there. Join me to know point by point what Huawei can offer us through this bracelet. Observe, these are all the options that Huawei has launched, different colors for your bracelet. We have pink, white, black, yellow, and finally electric blue. Only the electric blue edition comes with nylon fabric and comes in this case with this mechanism that simply sticks and peels off, unlike the other editions that come with a more traditional clasp. The case also comes in different colors. In the yellow edition it comes in a silver shade. In the black edition it comes with a glossy black finish. In the white edition also the case is white, and in the pink edition the case is also pink. But something to note is that in the white edition, the frame surrounding the box is in gold color to give it a different touch. So honestly, I think that of all the one I like the most is the white edition, although I must also say that the fabric band is very comfortable to use. In the case of the bands that have these colors, its material is fluoroelastomer, which in simple terms is silicone, but Huawei likes to use that other term. As you can see, it has a rectangular screen format. In this case, it does not offer a Gorilla Glass or Kunlun glass protection. It would be interesting in some next generations of Huawei to see that its glass comes with Kunlun glass, which we have tested in their phones, and it is very resistant, but in this case it does not bring any special glass. The only thing we will notice in this glass is that it is shaped at the edges, has a very slight curvature, simply so that the action of sliding on the screen is a little smoother. The case of this watch is made of a high-strength polymer, so Huawei has defined it. In simple terms, it's plastic, so we don't have premium materials in this regard. Obviously, Huawei will incorporate more advanced materials in much more expensive watches. On the back, it simply comes with a plastic design, and here are placed the sensors and charging pins, and note how it does have a mechanism to easily change bands, so you could also independently purchase other bands to customize according to your outfit. As you can see, in this case a button is integrated to return to the home screen or to open the list of applications, so navigation is a little easier compared to other bracelets that only offer navigation through the touch screen. It is 8.99 millimeters thick and weighs 14 grams and offers 5 ATM water resistance, so you could go swimming without any problems with this bracelet. Although it is always advisable to rinse it with pure water after such activities and avoid bathing with very hot water if you are going to have it on. In terms of design, there is honestly not much more we could ask for. Obviously, we are talking about a low-cost bracelet, so in design we will not see too much evolution, but it is still a positive design. The screen is AMOLED with a diagonal of 1.47 inches. I think it's a big enough size to display quite a bit of information, so that's a positive thing. Also, the fact that it's AMOLED is going to allow us to have vivid colors and very high contrast, as well as good power consumption. The resolution is 194 by 368 pixels, giving us a pixel density of 282 pixels per inch, so it is a sufficiently sharp but not spectacular screen. We don't have specific information on the level of brightness that it's capable of achieving, but believe me, it does give us a good outdoor display, and likewise you could also control the brightness manually or automatically because it does include light sensor, and that's something that not all bracelets integrate, so it's worth noting. As you notice, it also integrates features to be able to turn it on by touching it, although that is going to consume more power, and since it has a button, I think it is not necessary to enable that option. However, there it is available in case you want to enable it. You can also configure when you want it to sleep, and if you want the screen to stay on for a little longer, you could also enable it. But something I like is that in this case it is also compatible with always on display, so you can perfectly make the watch keep showing you the time and additional information without the need for the watch to be fully active. Note how it will also have equivalent dials, that is to say that they retain the same design of the dial when the screen is on. There are some that are much more similar than others, but notice how each of them does have this same essence of saving battery but still showing you information and often with the same design. So I think this has been something that I liked about this bracelet. The always on display dials remain the same, unlike other watches or bracelets that although they do have always on display, sometimes the dial is generic and does not look anything like the dial when the watch is on. But in this case it does, and as I say, it does so with a very good quality. Obviously also with the help of the light sensor, the brightness of always on display could be variable, so in this case that brightness you can't adjust it manually, and it also has the option to activate the screen simply by turning the wrist, which is a gesture that virtually all watches integrate. Regarding the sound, there is not much we can say because it does not integrate speakers or microphones, so it is not able to play music directly locally, nor does it have voice assistant or support for answering calls directly from this bracelet. So the only thing we could tell you regarding the sound is that we will have direct access to our playback, access to the music control of our cell phone. So from here we can modify the volume, pause or resume playback and change songs all wirelessly, controlling our smartphone. So honestly, I really like how Huawei represents all of this because it allows you to explore a lot of information directly from your wristband without the need to use your mobile device. In this sense, I think it delivers very well, as there are other wristbands that show you very little information directly on the device and you need your cell phone if you want to explore more information. It will also be able to analyze your heart rate around the clock and again is able to give you more information if you swipe down. In fact, the wristband can also warn you when your heart rate is too low or too high. However, that setting cannot be enabled from the wristband but only from the app. So from the application, you only have to go to the health monitoring section to configure how you want to monitor your heart rate. In this section, you can enable alerts for a high heart rate and configure specifically what frequency you want to be called too high frequency, or the same thing will happen with too low frequency. So these are settings that you can use to improve your health analysis. In fact, the wristband is also capable of doing an analysis of arrhythmias and pulse waves. This add-on must be downloaded separately. This analysis of arrhythmias and strange pulses in the heart takes about 45 seconds, and you have to start it manually and be completely static, and it will show you the result directly on the watch. Although also in the mobile application you can see more or less how your heart has behaved, because through this tool you could detect early any problem related to atrial fibrillation or detect premature beats or risk of premature beats and other things. So I think that in this sense we find one of its strongest points, since most similar devices are only able to monitor the heart rate, but in this case it makes a more detailed analysis of all your pulses. It will also include sleep analysis with the True Sleep system, so it has a very detailed analysis. It gives a score to your sleep session. It tells you how many hours you slept, how many hours you were awake, and many more details. In fact, it also analyzes the REM sleep stage without the need for any additional configuration. So we have also very good information. It's even able to monitor the naps you take during the day. So it's an extremely detailed analysis of your sleep. In fact, supposedly this wristband is also going to measure how you breathe during the night to give you a graph. In case you tend to interrupt your breaths a lot during the night, it can actually warn you. Although in my case, for some reason, this feature has not been collecting data. I have been using this wristband for a little over a week, and the last data collected by the app corresponds to last year when I tried another Huawei watch. So maybe this could be corrected with some update. It will also be able to analyze your oxygen saturation around the clock. This is something very important because there are other watches that need manual measurement. Obviously, the measurement will be more accurate when you are at rest, and you can also initiate this measurement manually. But I like that it is able to do this without you having to intervene on the device. It will also be able to monitor stress automatically, and again with around-the-clock monitoring. In this case, you can also see additional information. It also has female health monitoring. In this case, it is simply going to be a kind of calendar. Obviously, from the app, you have to set up absolutely everything about the start of your period and other data before it can help you predict behavior. Although it does not have a temperature sensor, that often helps to have much more accurate predictions. So it is a very simple control, but it can also help. It supports 100 exercise modes, and in this case you can choose some of the predefined ones or definitely go to customize to add more of the modes it has, so you can select some specific sport, and in this case it doesn't have GPS, so we are not going to have that feature unless you have connected your cell phone to backlog all your routes. But we do have an easy and friendly graphic to tell you the calorie burn zone, also your heart rate, distance, how long you've been doing the exercise, and some additional information depending on what exercise you have set up. One thing I like about this workout screen is that it has quick access to music control, even though you can't exit to other apps without needing to stop your workout. But that's something that pretty much every wristband has as a drawback. One thing to say is that this device integrates additional sensors for more specific monitoring of your strokes when you are swimming. So in this sense, it also seeks to specialize a little more. Here it gives you a little bit of information on how you should have the bracelet on before you go swimming, and obviously it's going to have many other sports that you might get to use. But after exercising, we will also have access to a monitor of the state of your body. That is to say, it will be a running capacity index that will tell you more or less at what level you are. Then there's also the exercise load, so you can manage your muscles well, and the recovery percentage in case it detects that you're giving too much load to your body. So these are other parameters that you could use if you like to exercise a lot. With respect to sports monitoring, it must be said that it does have automatic detection, but only for two sports, walking and running. That is, any other sport must be started manually because otherwise the monitoring will not be active. What it does not have is auto pause. That is, if you are suddenly running and you make a small pause, the bracelet will continue monitoring. Unlike other bracelets that do pause the monitoring while they detect that you have stopped. So, like any device, it can excel in some things and have weaknesses in others. Let's now talk about the battery that is built into this wristband. Let me tell you that Huawei promises 9 days of use without always on display. But you know, I always like to turn on always on display to see more or less how long it lasts. Huawei promises 3 days with always on display, although personally it lasted me 4 days. Although I must say that I had it connected to a cell phone that does not receive so many notifications a day. So you know that battery life can vary greatly depending on the type of user you are. If you receive too many notifications a day, obviously this lifetime is going to be a little shorter. And if you receive few notifications, it can last much longer. It will also depend on what things you have enabled and what things you don't have enabled. For example, Huawei also promises up to 14 days of autonomy if you disable the monitoring of your sleep and some other little things. So I insist that it will depend a lot on the type of user you are. But personally, it lasted me more or less about 4 days. But what I must tell you is that the charging has been improved compared to last generation, especially the first few minutes. With 15 minutes that I put it on charge, it got up to 47% power back. So I think even if you don't have a lot of power anymore, with a little while that you plug it in to charge, you're going to have for a long time. In fact, Huawei promises that with 5 minutes of charging, it can give you up to 2 days of use. So it is interesting in this sense. In my test, the full charge was completed in 47 minutes. So in less than an hour, you can recover all the energy and continue using it. I think that the charging is undoubtedly a positive point. The autonomy is not so much. I think it is a very average battery life. It is not remarkable. But it does stand out a lot in the speed of charging. Now let's talk a little about the software that is available on this bracelet. As you notice, the home screen is completely customizable with different styles of covers. But something I like about Huawei is that it also has customizable or configurable watch faces. That is, for example, this style cover, we will be able to configure it to have different styles. In this case specifically, you must open the mobile application to select what color scheme you can have. But there are others that, for example, will allow us to configure the complications, which is a way to call these special indicators. For example, we can change the heart rate indicator for a step counter, and as you can see, it will show us different graphs. Also in this part, we can change to another time or also change the sunset indicator to a moon phase indicator or other information. So we can have a quick look at different parameters from our home screen, completely configurable to our liking, and that's something that few manufacturers offer, so that's why I quite like it. As usual, in the mobile app we're going to have access to many other covers that we can download. Some are recommended and obviously also several are paid, but we also have a good section of free covers. We can explore them in different ways. So I think that in this sense we do have a positive point because of the wide variety of covers that we can download and install. And although several are paid, as I say, a very good amount is free, so you can definitely customize this bracelet according to your taste completely. Notice how I didn't just scroll down to show absolutely all of the ones that are available. I finally ended up in this section, but there are other sections available as well. In fact, there is a special section for the free ones in case you want to explore only this type of content. And I insist that the variety is very wide. This bracelet does not offer an app store, so the apps that come installed are the only ones you will be able to use. And notice how also sliding to the sides we can access some widgets or mini applications where we can see more information of our physical state, directly start some exercise, monitor how is the sleep information, and in general, if you press and hold, you can also rearrange these widgets or add widgets of other information. So I honestly think the operating system is considerably good for a wristband. Obviously, having a simple screen, it's not going to offer us map navigation, as we could find in much more advanced watches. And note how being on the home screen we can swipe from top to bottom to access quick settings. In fact, it also has shortcuts to timer, alarm and other features. And in the case of the flashlight, it turns on immediately. I think here we could ask for improvement to have a countdown before turning on the screen because it might dazzle you a bit. But notice how you can customize the flashlight to change the color and even to say if you want it to be on and off like a kind of SOS. From these quick settings, we can also press the button to find our device and make it ring when we can't find it. Access to the alarm, we can enable do not disturb mode on the bracelet, and we can also enable sleep mode. And if we slide from the bottom up, we access the notifications. And regarding the notifications, we can access from the bottom up. Here, the list of notifications will appear. And notice how it shows you the message. It shows you the icon of the application, but it is not able to show emojis in the messages, although you can respond with some emoji, or you can also respond with predefined answers. Also note that if you are sent a sticker, only the word sticker will appear, but you can select the quick reply option, fully customizable from your phone, so you can have at least this level of interaction with the notifications, which comes in quite handy because there are other wristbands that don't offer you any kind of response. This type of interaction works this way not only with Huawei devices but also with Android devices from other brands, but with iPhone devices you will not be able to reply to messages, you can only view messages, and as you realize in this case when you receive several messages, they can be grouped together even when they are from different people. So, in general, the notifications are grouped by the type of application, and then you can explore each of these messages individually. What I like is that they don't come in a disorganized way like they might with other apps that just tell you 6 messages, and you're not able to scan each one of these messages. So, I think you have greater capabilities in this regard to be able to manage your notifications well. Interestingly, for some countries, it does have a mobile payments feature that would use the mCash app, but it is not available in Mexico and probably not in other regions either. However, I think it is a good addition in the regions where it is available. As you can see, it also gives us access to the weather, where we can not only see the weather forecast, but also throughout the day how it will behave, also what time the sunrise and sunset will be, and the moon phase, as well as other information. What I think would be missing would be to see the radiation level, and even on the initial cover it indicates the radiation level, which at the moment is high. It also gives us access to the calendar, simply showing today's events. We're also going to have access to the alarm, where we can customize various alarms, and also access to different timers, or you can customize specifically how you want it to behave. In addition to the stopwatch and the flashlight that we had already seen, those would be all the applications that it has available. As you notice, it doesn't have reminders or any gallery or calculator apps, so it offers the basics but does it in a good way. Now let me show you the additional benefits that you would have if your bracelet is connected to a Huawei cell phone, as it offers additional tools. For example, the remote shutter option will appear, which will allow you to open the camera of your cell phone and shoot the picture directly from the bracelet. Although it does not show you a preview, nor does it let you modify the cell phone settings, but it can be a good tool. What it does have is a timer that allows us to select between 5 or 2 seconds, and obviously we will have this convenience. So it is a tool that can be useful, although I insist exclusively when you have a Huawei cell phone connected. Curiously, the timers started from the cell phone are not synchronized with the bracelet to be able to turn them off. So that would be a section of ecosystem improvement that surely with an update could be achieved. However, note how the alarms are perfectly synchronized so that you can postpone or cancel them directly from the bracelet. That again is exclusive when connected to a Huawei cell phone. And note that in the case of being connected to an iPhone, we will have the same behavior of grouping notifications. That is, they will not appear all out of order even if you receive many messages simultaneously, as we can see in some other bracelets. And when we enter a message, the emoji response options and quick reply do not appear. That would be the limitation we have when connected to an Apple device, but the rest of the features remain present without any problem. And note that curiously, the remote shutter also appears even when we are using an iPhone. Which is quite curious because we don't have this feature on Android, only on Huawei and iPhone. A rather curious behavior, but you can get to take advantage of it. So for the moment, this has been all regarding these bracelets. I hope you liked this video. If so, you know you can tell us, and we'll see you next time.